Hi everyone, my name is Kate Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Today I'm going to share with you how to create this gorgeous card, except we're going to do it in Wisteria Wonder. This one is done in Marina Mist, which I think is beautiful, but I also think Wisteria Wonder would look lovely with this card. So we're going to do that, and then I want to show you the bundle. This is it. It's page 75, and you can see this beautiful stamp set. It's a very large stamp set with 37 different stamps. And if you choose to get the coordinating framelits, you'll save 10%. And there's actually, let me just double check, but I think it's 17 framelits. Yes, this is the framelit set that coordinates with it. So you get 17 framelits. That's called the Everyday Jars framelits. And it, like I said, it coordinates with the Jar of Love stamp set. And if you buy both at the same time, you save 10%. It's beautiful. It just reminds me so much of my grandma's house and going down to the cellar to get a jar of canned peaches or something. And she did use her jars for flower arrangements. And I remember the wire bail, we'd sit there and fiddle with it. I mean, once those bails were on the jars, it was really difficult to get them off. So she often would have her flower arrangements just on the table with the wire bail open like this. So I'm going to show you how to create this, and I love that Stampin' Up! Included a framelit for the wire bail. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to do this one, like I said, in Wisteria Wonder, but if you want to, you can go ahead and do it in Marina Mist. And this one is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Again, Wisteria Wonder cardstock. And I'm just going to fold it along the score line. I'm going to use my bone folder to give it a nice press, and that way it will lie flat for us while we work with it. Then I'm going to put my inside panel in. This is 4 by 5 1/4, and I did go ahead and I stamped these little ferns once and then twice, just so there's a little bit of a shadow on it. And so I used Pear Pizzazz for that. And we're going to just go ahead and put this right on the inside panel of our card. We're going to use a little bit of snail at the top, and we'll just insert this right here. So this will be a blank card. You can just write whatever you want. And for the outside, we're going to do another layer of Wisteria Wonder, and I used a brand new embossing folder called Petal Burst. I'm going to bring it up to the camera because it is so gorgeous. So here is what it looks like once you've run it through the Big Shot machine. It is beautiful, is it not? I just love it. So I'm going to set this onto the front of my card, and I'm just going to put this down with a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue. I just feel like the multi-purpose liquid glue gives me a little bit better stick-to-itness when we put this down compared to the snail, especially with all of those little bumps on there. The liquid glue will just go into all of those crevices and cause it to stick really well to our card. So now we'll go ahead and set this aside. So I have a panel of Very Vanilla. This is 2 3/4 by 4 3/8. And this is what I'm going to stamp my jar onto, and where we're going to be doing all of our stems. So I'm going to set this onto a mat that looks like this, a stamp mat, because we are using photopolymer stamps, so we'll get a little bit better image. Let me show you the stamp set. There are 3 jars in this stamp set. There's a small, a medium, and a large. For this particular card, we're going to use the medium jar. And I'm going to ink that up with Wisteria Wonder. And I'm going to set it very close to the bottom edge of this paper and just center it in the middle. And there it is. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our greenery. So I'm going to ink that up with Pear Pizzazz. And we'll set 1 into the jar, and it's going to veer off to the left. And then we're going to change the orientation so that it veers off to the right. To do that, we just have to move our stem. We're just going to move it a little bit that way to the left, which means when you stamp on the other side, it's veered off to the right. So now I'm going to ink that up again with Pear Pizzazz. And we're going to stamp that over here so that it is leaning towards the right. Perfect. Now we're going to take just a plain stem, and we're going to ink it, and we're going to make one veer to the right, and then we're going to veer one to the left. So to do that, I'm just going to turn it around, and then we have one veering off to the left. And then we want one to come right up through the center. So now I'm just going to stamp that like this, and I'm going to make it a little taller so that it sticks out above everything. And so that particular stem ends more in the middle of the jar. Now we're going to add some water for our stem, so I'm inking that particular stamp up with Soft Sky, and I can just center this over the bottom of our jar, give it a nice little press, and we've just put our stems and blossoms into water. Now I'll set this aside, and we're going to bring in some scrap paper. This is just a 2.5-inch long piece of scrap, and we're going to do our flower stamping along with our wire bail and our burlap. So I'm going to start with the burlap because that's the easiest. So we're going to add this burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to stamp it over here on the right and just give that a press. Then the wire bail is going to be stamped with Wisteria Wonder. I'm going to ink that up, and we're just going to stamp this over here like so. And then the next thing we're going to do is stamp our flowers. So this is two-step stamping, so I'm going to get some scrap paper in here because we want to stamp off. So we're going to take this bigger flower, and I'm using rich raspberry ink. I think that'll look really, really nice with the Wisteria Wonder. So I'm just stamping it off once, and then we're going to take that second generation image and stamp it right here. Then we're going to come in with the second flower piece that coordinates with this, and then we're just going to go full on with the first generation of the ink straight onto that flower, and you can see the beautiful two tones that you get. Now there's a double flower that's also part of this set, and when you cut it out at the Big Shot machine, it actually turns it into two little flowers. But for stamping, you only need to go in and stamp it once. So again, oops, I forgot to stamp off, so we're going to have to move this over to the side. And since I did stamp off here, which I did not actually mean to do, we're going to stamp it over here. And so there we have our second generation, and then we're going to go ahead and ink this up again and do our first generation over the top with that two-step stamping. And so what we're going to be cutting out is this image and this image. Now I did go ahead and I stamped these in advance and this one in advance, and I ran that through the Big Shot machine. But for our burlap ribbon, I need to go ahead and I need to stamp For You. So I'm just going to ink that up again in rich raspberry. I'm going to come in here over the top of it and stamp the For You, just right over the top of that burlap ribbon. And this we're going to cut out by hand with the scissors. So I'll do that right now really quickly. And now we can go ahead and we'll just put this right onto our jar. We're going to do that with a little bit of snail. So let me bring that image back into the camera here for you. We're going to put this right about here. Make sure that's nice and straight. We'll give it a good press. And now we have our burlap ribbon onto our jar. Okay, let me show you how those flowers turned out and the wire bail that I've cut out with the Big Shot machine. This is the sandwich that I used to run through the Big Shot machine. I started out with my magnetic platform, then I have my cut plate, and here's my wire bail that's just stamped on a piece of vanilla scrap. Oops, I lost a flower. And here are my flowers, and you can see how this one is cut just one time through with a double framelit that matches with that. And then here's my other flower. And I just love how quick and easy it is to create these beautiful cards from Stampin' Up! With the coordinating framelits and the stamp set. So we're going to pull this wire bail out, and then we're just going to set this aside. And I'm going to show you how to attach all of these to your card. So for the wire bail, I'm going to put a glue dot right here on each end. And I'm using my paper piercing tool so I get accurate placement. The glue dots are just a tiny bit big, so you can kind of crumple them to make them fit into that area. And it's okay if it lifts up a little bit and away from your card, because that's what those wire bails did. They were kind of loose and floppy. So we're going to just set this right here onto the card. And isn't that awesome? Look at that. It's just so floppy, just like it is in real life. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use dimensionals for our flowers. So I can go ahead and just put one here, and then one here. And this one is a little bit of a smaller flower, so I'm going to cut this dimensional in half, and we'll just set this right here. And then it's time to put it onto our card. So it's easy for me to just take my paper piercing tool and lift up that flower. I can flip it over and get exact placement on the top of that middle stem. Then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with these other two flowers. We're going to set this one over here. We can bring it down a little bit if we wish. And then here's the other one. And I think we'll set that one right here. And now all we have to do is put this onto our card. We're going to layer it onto a panel of Pear Pizzazz. This is going to give me a 3/16 inch layer all the way around. So you're going to have some weird numbers here, but I just love that look for this particular colored. So I cut this Pear Pizzazz panel at 2 15/16 by 4 9/16 so that I could get a lovely 3/16 inch layer all the way around. So I'm just going to add this with snail, and then we're going to center this over the top of Pear Pizzazz. And it is beautiful. Now we're going to bring our card back in, and to just really show this off, we are going to use one of the new Stampin' Up! Delicate White doilies. Now I'm going to compare this to the tea lace doily that Stampin' Up! Used to carry. You'll notice this is the new one, this is the old one, and there's quite a bit of difference in size. The new ones are much smaller. So I really like that, and I also like that they're a little bit more opaque. These are a little more see-through. These are a little less see-through, a little more opaque, a little bit more sturdy looking. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to add a little bit of snail to the back, and we are going to set this up here in the upper left hand corner of our card. And that looks really good. So I'm going to press that in and make sure that sticks good. Then I'm going to add some snail to the back of this panel. And that will also help the doily stick because we're going to be adding the glue to the doily as well as to the rest of the panel. And we're going to set this in and scoot this in so that we have maybe about a ½ inch from the right side and then maybe an inch or so on the left side. And it just snugs into that doily at the top. And our card is complete. So here's the card I've just created using the Wisteria Wonder. And then here is the card I had created in advance using our Marina Mist. And they're both just beautiful. Now the colors I used on this flower, I think I used a discontinued color, which is Strawberry Slush for this. Many of you probably already have that in your collection. I was up at the cabin this weekend and that's what I had available. But it would also look beautiful in Melon Mambo, which is a current color. And then for this one, to coordinate with the Wisteria Wonder, I love using the rich razzleberry. Just gorgeous. So thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. I truly appreciate you. If you need a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, be sure to visit my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.